I've got a new little setup. I mean, I'm still in the same room. Just there's a shot there. There's a shot here, and this is my new shot. I thought I'd have a little catch up, find out what you guys want to talk about, as opposed to me just talking about the stuff that I want to talk about. It's always fun going down your rabbit holes rather than me just rambling on about the things that I find interesting. Let's get cracking. Let's talk about the stuff you guys want to talk about. And the first question is, do you have any watch goals for 2024? Any pieces you want for yourself and not just for review? Yes, absolutely. I actually really want to change up a lot of my collection. I feel my collection has got very modern heavy. I feel like I've got a lot of modern pieces and my passion is vintage. So this year I want to get a chronograph, I want to get a dress watch. Still, I feel like I've already spoken about this. I want to get another dress watch. There's quite a few dress watches that I want to get. There's Cartier, there's another Rolex, there's Omega that I want to get. Yeah, there's quite a few. I don't want to give away too much because I feel like I then have to commit to it. And my mind's always changing. The next question is, Adrian, when shooting on your X100V, the Fuji X100V, you mainly use film simulators and post straight out of camera, or rather use raw pictures and then edit them? Love your work. Thanks so much. I always fantasize about the idea of shooting JPEG and just using the film simulations and then posting straight out of camera. But then I'll always see something that I want to tweak. And so then I'll put that into Lightroom and do that tweak. And then 2 hours later, I've done a whole load of tweaks. So I fantasize about the idea of using film simulation and posting straight out of camera, but I typically just shoot raw and then edit a lot. Next question is, I have trouble deciding between the two watches. Should I pick based on the bracelet? This is a really interesting question because I think it all depends on what your plans are for the watch. I have watches that are bracelet only. I only ever wear my Explorer on a bracelet, but then I have watches that I only wear on straps, like my Seamaster and my Explorer 2. They live on straps. If you're planning to wear the watch on a bracelet, then I do feel like the bracelet is a very important factor of the watch. It's the wearability of the watch, it's the comfort, and then it's also the looks. So I really would take the bracelet into consideration if you plan on wearing it on the bracelet. Why are the secondary watch markets crashing? This is a big one, and it's not just the secondary watch markets crashing. Loads of markets are crashing. That then puts fear into people, or rather people are genuinely just earning less money now, or they're just fearful or being cautious about their money, and so therefore they're not going out and spending thousands of pounds on watches. That action alone will slow down the watch market, but it's kind of another step on that. People are being cautious to the point of selling their watches because a lot of people, especially during COVID, would spend a lot of money on watches or put a lot of their money into watches. And they're now wanting that money back, either because they need the money or they feel safer having the money in the bank rather than having the money in a watch. The knock-on effect of that is then people are just selling their watches. So suddenly the market is flooded with all of these previously hyped watches or just watches. So now the scales of supply and demand are now going the other way. So dealers can no longer demand such high prices because these so-called scarce watches are no longer scarce. It's a lot easier to buy a Rolex now than it has been for years and years. Typically the rule is the bigger the hype around a watch, the more that price has crashed. And to be honest, as a buyer, it's only a good thing. Do you feel like the focus and content of the channel has changed? What's the mission statement for 2024 and beyond? I really like this question for two reasons. Firstly, I feel like the channel hasn't changed focus, but I also appreciate that that is something to do with perspective. It might be moving forward or it might evolve and in my eyes hopefully improve. I guess the mission statement in the short form is essentially just do more and do better, but what that actually means is do more based on last year's is not that hard because I feel like I was running the channel and the shop barkandjack.com myself, whereas I now have a team, so to do more now is actually a lot easier. But essentially what that means is I want to do at least one video a week. Once we've got that nailed, I then want to start doing other content. I haven't decided what that is. There's a couple of ideas. There's lots of ideas. One of them is doing long form. One of them is just doing more shorter form content. It'd be interesting to get your input on that. Would you like long form? Would you like a podcast, a solo podcast, a podcast with a co-host? There's so many ideas, so many possibilities. There's a lot of Tudor questions here because I used a Tudor watch as a post to then say, do you have any questions? So there's a lot of Tudor questions coming in. So the question is, do you think Tudor will give the Black Bay 58 the monochrome treatment? No, I don't think they will. Based on them doing the Coke bezel and the GMT steel, the gilt this year, I feel like they're going to keep the Black Bay 58 range as a vintage inspired, and then potentially separate the normal Black Bay, the Black Bay 41, as a more modern or more neutral offering. If you were to collaborate with any watch brand other than Rolex, which would it be and why? There are so many. The original idea behind Bark and Jack was to launch a watch company. That was my plan. That was my dream. And the more I went down that road, the more I realized I just have nowhere near the amount of money required to do that. So that never happened. So I do have ideas, and often when I see a watch, I think of what I would change, what I would tweak about it. But just off the top of my head, something like an IWC Pilot's watch, I'd love to customize one of those and play about with it and make it my own. Or equally at Hamilton, anything from the Hamilton khaki range. I'd love to do an Aquaterra. I'd love to do a Speedmaster. I'd love to do a Pelagos 39. There's honestly, pretty much every watch I talk about, there's things that I'd adjust about it. The Seamaster. I'd love to do a customized Seamaster. I did a video on that. This is a big question. A JLC price hike. Do you think that was the right move? Every brand is, and this kind of got triggered by the video I did previously around the Tag Heuer Formula One, where everyone was complaining about the price of it being over £1,000, and saying that I was sponsored because I didn't call that out. A couple of corrections on that. The watch isn't a plastic watch. Yes, it's colourful and fun in the same way as the Moonswatch is colourful and fun. But the Moonswatch is a plastic watch, plastic glass, plastic movement. Everything is plastic about that watch. The Formula One is a stainless steel case. It's got sapphire crystal, 200 meters of water resistance. Yes, it's a quartz movement. Yes, it's a bit of fun and a very expensive bit of fun. Would I buy it? No, I wouldn't. Would I like one if I was given one? Yes, I would. But that doesn't negate it. I equally wouldn't buy the Omega Seamaster No Time to Die. I absolutely love that watch. I think it's the best Seamaster out there. But the price of it is absolutely insane. This can be put alongside so many brands. The challenge is it's not JLC, it's the whole market. We simply aren't buying watches in the same way that we were. So coming back to the secondary price crash, it's not just a secondary price. The watch market as a whole, new and old, is going down at the moment, and so brands have to change what they do. They simply aren't moving the same numbers that they were before, and they still have their operating costs that need to be covered. And so they need to make more money on the fewer watches that they're selling. It's not a volume game anymore that it was 3-4 years ago. Every single watch brand is putting up their prices. The Speedmaster is now £6,500. The Sapphire Sandwich is over £7,000. The Submariner, the stainless steel dive watch, is now £9,000, which is insane. It's different for Rolex because typically your money is safe with them. But if you remove that factor, it's an insanely expensive watch for what it is. Seiko prices are absolutely insane. If you think maybe 5 years ago, you could get an SKX, a legitimate dive watch, for 250 quid. And now they're selling visually the same watch, but not spec-wise, a Seiko 5 for £450. Doesn't even have a screw-down crown on it. So Seiko is no longer the sensible, affordable choice. So it's not just JLC, it's not just Cartier, it's not just Omega. These things are just expensive now. And so I appreciate I haven't really answered the question around JLC. JLC are struggling right now because it's a brand that isn't really being spoken about. They don't have a strong offering. As a brand, and so as a brand, they need to do something. But I think the first thing they have to do is make a profit. And by upping their prices, unfortunately, that's just how it's going to work. I feel like that topic could have been a video on its own. What point should one ignore a brand's history and what they are, or expect them to be, versus assessing the product on its own merits? The watch world and the luxury world, the world is just full of bullshit. There's so much smoke and mirrors going on in the whole world, but particularly in the watch world, that any history around a brand, I would just ignore. A lot of it's been manufactured. The stuff that is true has been completely amplified. I would essentially ignore that stuff and just focus on what that product is in front of you. I would never buy a watch and let a story from history overpower any fact of the watch. If something doesn't wear particularly well, I wouldn't think, oh yeah, but it did this. No, that's irrelevant. Does that watch look good? Do you like it? Can you afford it? And does it fit your wrist? I think that's all that matters. Yes, I use history and stories to back up my idea around buying a watch, but it is just me finding a way to justify buying it. At the end of the day, it is all about that product, all about the watch. Bowl of Salmon has a great photographer. Go check out Bowl of Salmon on Instagram. When does a watch trigger you enough to make a proper video? It essentially comes down to a few things. One, do I really feel a connection about the watch? Is there something about the watch that excites me enough to say I want to spend time and tell a story or get a connection with that watch? I've just borrowed, for example, the Tudor Black Bay 41 Monochrom. I felt something about that watch at Watches and Wonders, and so I'd asked Tudor if I could borrow one for a week. Because it's impossible to make a review about a watch when you only get hands-on for about 15 minutes. It's even tricky to get a review or a true understanding about a watch when you get lent it for a couple of days. I feel like you really need to spend some proper time with the watch. And so I've literally had that thing strapped to my wrist for a week. And then I took it up to Loch Lomond in Scotland, and that video will be coming out in a couple of weeks. So it all comes down to how much time do I have with the watch? Do I really feel a connection to it? Does it suit taking out, or can it just be spoken about here? The challenge is it's just expensive. It essentially comes down to, do we have money to do it? And do we have the time to do it? And do I want to do it? Do you think you'll ever buy an AP, Patek or Vacheron? The short answer is no, because I feel like, and I've spent a lot of time with a lot of watches from these brands, and although I love them, I don't know that I truly want a watch. No, I do want a watch from them. I just feel like if I was to spend 30 grand on a watch, I would personally benefit more from hiring a PA or hiring another member of staff. I think I'd get, or starting another company, starting another venture with that 30 grand. Yes, there are watches that I like. There's nothing from AP that I want. There's nothing from Patek that I want. A Lange 1815 would be amazing. A Lange Saxonia would be amazing. I know you didn't mention Lange, but I kind of package a Lange in with that stuff. A Vacheron 222 would be a dream. And a Vacheron 1921 again would be a dream. But the challenge around these watches is you have to look after them. And I don't treat my watches badly, but I wear them. I don't purposely bash them up, but they do get bashed up. I like watches. I like the Seamaster because it is, you don't have to think about it. It's a rock solid watch. The movement inside is bomb-proof. The movement inside an Omega Seamaster shits on anything that Patek, anything that AP, anything that Vacheron can do from a point of view of that accuracy and durability. Sure, you might get a Patek that's accurate to 0 seconds a day, but the moment you drop that thing, it's probably game over and a very expensive service. The Seamaster, it's not quite bomb-proof, but it's getting that way. And that's a bigger draw for me when it comes to watches, is I get more excited about how powerful this watch is versus how pretty the watch is. If I won the lottery and I suddenly had £1 million in the bank, yeah, for sure, I'd go out and I'd spend a lot of that on some fun watches. But right now, I just don't feel the draw to it. Yeah, but now I'm thinking about it. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for asking your questions. If you want to get involved next time, give me a follow at Bark and Jack on Instagram. Give me a follow at Adrian Barker. If you want to check out our watch straps and watch accessories, jump over to barkandjack.com. We've got new black mugs, and we have the original white one in stock. I should call them a Panda and Reverse Panda. Maybe I should just change that name. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you like the style of this video, then hit the subscribe button down there and that little bell icon to get notifications when I drop a new video. And I'll see you very soon. Take care.